On this episode of The Unseen World, a couple transforms a marvel of nature into a whimsical wonderland. And a palatial estate built by an eccentric billionaire lies in decay as it waits to see what it will be next. There is a world all around you filled with creations that will amaze. A world of destinations that astound. A world waiting to be explored. Come and discover the unseen world. This is the story of Garnet and Frida Carter, who left their legacy atop a Georgia mountain.
Rock City Gardens is a unique geological and botanical wonder that lightens the heart, soothes the soul, invigorates the mind, and stimulates the senses.
A citadel of rocks, high atop Lookout Mountain in the Chattanooga Hills, holds a fascinating collection of natural splendor and man-made attractions. It was the vision of a man and woman whose unique interests led to the development of the Rock City.
Garnet Carter lived on Lookout Mountain up at the top of the Lookout Mountain Incline Railway. So in the 1890s and early 1900s, Garnet was already involved in the tourism business as a boy. People were coming back to Chattanooga to see the Chickamauga-Chattanooga National Military Park, and Garnet and his brother Paul actually made souvenirs and sold them to visitors who were coming back to visit the battlefield. Well, Frida loved gardening. When Uncle Garnet wanted to build Rock City Gardens, she collaborated with Mrs. Chapin and her sister-in-law, my grandmother Danny, and they built the trail through the winding rock formations. Uncle Garnet built a wall on it, started charging money for admissions, and every cent he earned, he used to reinvest to make the trail better, to build bridges, to build stone walls, and that's how Rock City started in 1932.
Frida Carter's interest in fairy tales was a key factor in the creation of miniature golf. When construction of a planned golf course atop Lookout Mountain was met with delays, a smaller version was created, themed by Frida's eye for European folklore. The whimsical course that resulted was named Tom Thumb Golf after the diminutive English character, and was such a success that Garnet began to franchise it across the country. Tom Thumb Golf was a sensation for Garnet and Frida until the Great Depression quickly halted its success. But Frida had already moved on, beginning to fashion Rock City into a wonderland of trails, stories, and gnomes, an artistic venture that Garnet quickly realized would be a huge draw.
Rock City Gardens has been a place where the creative arts have always been a part of the experience. For Frida, it was the enchantment of naming the rock formations like the Grand Corridor or the Hall of the Mountain King. And then she began to add these figures. Frida's interest in fairy tales and folklore really came from her father's having grown up in Europe and in Germany. Fairyland Caverns is the final section of Rock City Gardens. Frida had gnomes placed around her gardens, and after the war, my dad and Frida and Uncle Garnet decided, why don't we move all of these fairy tale figures into Fairyland Caverns? The entry is full of unusual rocks, quartz, mica-covered stones, and then there are these giant stones that look like emeralds, but they're actually drops of Coca-Cola glass that were used from the Coca-Cola bottling plants. And because Garnet's brother, Paul, ran the Chattanooga Glass Company and made bottles for Coca-Cola, Uncle Garnet was able to get some of the glass that spilled out of the furnaces onto the floor, and he used that to make the entrance to Fairyland Caverns. Frida then turned the rest of the caverns into a fairy tale experience, and there's a scene where a mother is reading stories to her children, and then they're put to bed, and fairies come in through the window, and then the rest of Fairyland Caverns tell the stories of Rip Van Winkle, the old woman who lived in the shoe, Jack and the Beanstalk, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and Cinderella. Fairyland Caverns was added in the late 40s and enhanced during the early 1950s. And then Mother Goose Village, which is the very final part of the trail, was added in the early 1960s. 1963 it was built and then opened in 1964. And as a child, I would ride my bicycle through the parking lot and get off and go in and help Jesse Sanders, who was building the giant mountain with the castle on the top, and I was actually able to put plaster of Paris and burlap on the sides. I didn't create any fixtures or figures that are in Mother Goose Village, but I did help create the mountain. So that's a personal touch for me.
Rock City has also featured art from local artists, including pieces from Isaac Duncan, Matt Dutton, and many more. Rock City opened to the public on May 21, 1932, buoyed by an innovative advertising campaign. Carter hired a young sign painter to travel America's highways and offer to paint farmers' barns in exchange for having 3 large words on one side: See Rock City. The signs were a success, and since then, millions have come to see the fruits of Carter and Frida's labor, carrying with them the beauty and whimsy of Rock City and Fairyland.
I really love the gardens and the rock formations. The Grand Corridor, Hall of the Mountain King, Magic Valley, they're all so unique and beautiful. People have been visiting Rock City for decades upon decades, and we want to maintain the quality of the experience, not to leave no trace, but to actually improve it so that people will want to return again and again to bring their children and their grandchildren to experience beautiful Rock City Gardens, high atop Lookout Mountain, near Chattanooga, Tennessee.
The Unseen World will be right back. We now return to the Unseen World. This is the story of Buddy Candler, scion to the Coca-Cola fortune, and the mansion his eccentricities built. 40 acres, 7 bedrooms, a ballroom, 2 solariums, and a zoo. Welcome to Briarcliff.
The Briarcliff Mansion is the work of a man named Asa G. Candler Jr., Buddy, as he was known. Buddy Candler was the second son of Asa Candler Sr., who had founded the Coca-Cola Company. Asa Sr. had 5 children, 4 boys and a daughter. Asa Candler had high expectations of his children. So they were instilled by their father with this work ethic and this sense that they should do well for themselves. In 1919, the father had really given control of the Coca-Cola Company to his children. And much to his dismay, his children decided to sell the company. This was very disappointing to the father, but it made the fortune of the children. And they spent the rest of their lives basically spending that fortune. In the early part of the 20th century, Asa Candler Sr. had developed a partnership with a man named Forrest Adair to develop a new suburb of Atlanta called Druid Hills. And this is where Emory University now is located. And so with Druid Hills being developed, Asa Candler built a new mansion for himself, and 3 of the sons built mansions in the area of Emory University. The mansion that Buddy built was on a 42-acre site called Briarcliff. He started building it shortly after the end of World War I and completed it in 1920. In time, he would add to it, and by the end of his ownership, the mansion had 22 rooms, including a huge 1,700 square foot music room, wonderful ballroom, 6 or 8 bedrooms, and it was magnificent in every way.
With its outlandish construction completed, Buddy then set his sights on making Briarcliff outlandishly unique.
Apparently on a trip to Europe one time, he had found that a small circus was for sale. Being an enterprising man with a fortune, he decided to buy it. The story is that he sent word on a telegram back to his architects who had designed the house. And the telegram said, "Bought a circus, build a zoo." And within months, on a ship from Europe to New York, came this menagerie. On a train from New York to the train depot at Emory University, the menagerie came, and finally it was trucked over to the Briarcliff Mansion, where he apparently had monkeys, baboons, lions, tigers, and 4 elephants named Coca, Cola, Refreshing, and Delicious. The menagerie didn't last very long. He actually permitted the public to come in and look at his menagerie, his zoo, but the neighbors began to get upset with all the noise, all the stench, and in fact, at one point, a woman claimed that a baboon had escaped from Buddy's zoo, had gotten into her car and snatched her purse, and she sued him, not the baboon, but Buddy Candler, for $19,000. And at that point, Buddy said, "I've got to get rid of this zoo." And he gave it to the city of Atlanta, and it eventually became the nucleus for what is now Zoo Atlanta.
Throughout his life, Buddy Candler battled alcoholism and depression. He passed away in January of 1953. After his death, Briarcliff would go on to become both a drug rehabilitation center and later a psychiatric hospital.
Buddy lived in the mansion until 1952. In 1952, the state of Georgia did acquire the 42 acres and the mansion and turned the site into an alcoholism treatment center. Within about half a decade, the state would build what was called the Georgia Mental Health Institute, and there are still some buildings on that 42-acre campus that date from those days. They're no longer used because they're in need of being raised. But by the 1960s, the state had begun to change the way it treated alcoholism, and inpatient care was no longer the norm. It was used very hard. It basically became a facility for office space, for counseling space, for workshops, and for education. Much of the beautiful wood paneling had telephone cables and other cables stapled into it. Many of the rooms were chopped up. The beautiful painted ceilings and painted walls were damaged in various ways. There was little care for the kind of water damage that seemed to be fairly frequent. And in time, the property became a white elephant. And the state of Georgia began to look for a way to divest itself of this property. Well, it's only a mile from the Emory University campus, and Emory expressed interest in acquiring this, and in 1998 did in fact purchase the property from the state of Georgia. But the house itself, the mansion, really was in such bad repair that it couldn't be used for any kind of regular purposes. But
the fallen grandeur of Briarcliff provided it a new lease on life, with the increased television and film production happening in Georgia. The off-site buildings became the Hawkins National Laboratory in Netflix's Stranger Things, and the mansion itself has played host to numerous television series, like DC's Doom Patrol.
It became the place for Vampire Diaries, some of The Walking Dead, and various other scary movies that seemed ideal for the kind of falling down, decrepit, Gothic atmosphere of the place.
Now owned by Emory University, the future of Briarcliff has yet to be determined.
The university has been trying to envision quite what to do with that property. As for the mansion itself, it's on the National Register of Historic Places. That doesn't mean that it can't be torn down, but it does mean that we ought to think very seriously about how to restore it if we can, and to preserve it for posterity.
For nearly a century, Briarcliff's purpose has shifted dozens of times, and no one knows what it will be next. A fact that an eccentric like Buddy Candler might have enjoyed. The Unseen World will be right back. We now return to the Unseen World. If you'd like to visit the locations featured in today's episode, here is more information. Rock City is located on Lookout Mountain in North Georgia. It's open to the public year-round, with different seasonal events. For more information on ticket pricing and current schedules, visit searockcity.com. Briarcliff is located on the campus of Emory University. If you'd like to visit the mansion, contact the college to arrange a visit, as it sits on private property.